Good morning. This morning I'm going to be talking about the aura and its centers. Later on we'll be putting today's talk up on the YouTube, and you'll see today's talk is a video, but I want to let you know last Sunday's talk and today's talk we are including some diagrams, and our recording team, as they do their magic and put all of this up on the YouTube, you'll find if there's just a whole bunch of little arrows and everything you can click. Finally, you're going to find the right one to click on. It will take you to the links of the diagram. So even though the diagram will be visible, on the video, to have a more clear diagram and you can download it, just click on that little arrow on your YouTube account and it will take you to show you the link, and the link will take you to the actual diagram. It's only in the world of technology we can do things like this. I was also thinking this morning how I bet you we're not too far away from having software that will create holograms. And what I'm talking about today, and anytime we talk about higher mental bodies and the human constitution, to have holograms would be so much more real to the consciousness and to our perception of that world, that let's put a seed thought out there that somebody is smart enough to create software for these holograms. Thinking about it means we're probably already in manifestation, but not likely to be too financially affordable. So the aura. When I was first introduced to auras, the first aura that I ever saw was with my puppies. Most puppies, loving puppies, have pink auras, in case you didn't know that. Then I began to see colors around towels and rugs and, very dull objects. But it's interesting to see these kind of auras, colors, these different colors. And then one day an artist told me, when I was saying, well, this color goes with the color of that aura, and he said, oh, that's just colors of the spectrum, because he was an artist and he knew, about those colors. Well, that was exciting to me because I had no idea about that, and I was just seeing a color, the aura of an object, which apparently correlates, at least physically, to the what do you call it, the spectrum of colors, the art colors. Then I had a teacher a spiritual teacher, who one day stood up on a stage and had a screen behind her, and she put her hands together and she said, watch what's going to happen. And she projected an energy out through her hands, and I saw this green color just kind of ooze out of her hands. And she said, those who have a predominantly green aura are natural healers. So then later I took a class on how to develop, and unfold your psychic ability to see auras. So that was my introduction to, auras. Then I got on the right track and began to learn the science behind auras and the spirituality of it and what's real. We have a diagram up here. Isn't that cute? Can you see that? This diagram is the result of an inner seeing, let's say, by Charles Ledbetter. there's all kinds of images on the internet that help you at least get a concept or perception of one's aura. This is not accurate, but it's beautiful. And the most beautiful one that I could find on the internet, but it gives us an idea that there are colors and radiations that come from our body that go out into 3 or 4 up to 10 feet and beyond our body, depending on our lifestyle and our consciousness. So this is the point about an aura. The aura is a very sensitive sphere around our body. It is, in essence, a communication. It transmits and receives. It transmits who we are and receives ideas and thoughts and impressions and energy. So the aura has a scientific element to it, and I like to call it's just a recording element. It records and transmits energy, but it is a very sensitive sphere around our body. Now, in our aura, we have the etheric body. This would be the body that's, closest to the physical body. So it would be in this area. It's pretty easy to see the etheric body of a person. Some teachings say the etheric body is a healing body. I would agree with that in part. What becomes increasingly challenging for our psychic perceptions to see is the recognition that our etheric body has 4 levels to it. The higher we go, the more refined each layer is. Then we have the astral aura and 2 mental auras. The astral aura and the 2 mental auras, the lower mental aura and the higher mental aura. And again, you can, that's the reason for all the colors and, the perceptions of Ledbetter around the body of these different colors and radiations. And then he took, these straight lines to indicate the radiation that's coming from our body outward through the aura. So hopefully this gives a bit of an abstract or creative imagination to our thinking that we have an astral aura and 2 mental auras. We have, corresponding to these 4 auras, we have the intuitional aura, we have the atmic, monadic, and divine auras. But these bodies must be developed in order to have an aura coming from these planes of consciousness. These 4, the intuitional, the atmic, monadic, and divine auras, are called 4 cosmic ethers. So those cosmic ethers begin with the Buddhic body, or the intuitional body, which is called the 4th cosmic ether. Then the atmic is the 3rd cosmic ether, and so forth. So our etheric body has 4 levels. So that's what we're mostly interested in. Most of us have a developed physical body and a developed etheric body. Where almost everything that happens in our universe affects our aura. This is important to think about, and it also relates to last Sunday's talk, which was about approaching the higher mind. The brain, our physical brain, cannot register the effect of the etheric aura until there is a line of communication between the etheric brain and the physical brain. Once that line of communication is developed, then impressions and ideas and our translation comes from the etheric brain into our physical brain. So it is not until there is a conscious communication between the etheric brain and the physical brain that we can consciously register impressions and ideas and visions that are affecting our aura. So where almost everything that happens in the life affects the aura, we are not conscious of those effects until the etheric brain and physical brain are in communication. So this is why people say, well, how do you know this is true? How do you know, a human being has an aura? Well, your senses have to be developed. These 4 senses have to be developed. And these senses, in the process of being developed, their development begins with the 4 levels of the etheric body. Then it goes into the astral. Then we have astral senses. Then we have mental senses. So as these senses develop and unfold, they become more refined, more sensitive to impression and ideas. An average person's aura is mostly composed of the etheric body and the emotional or astral body, with just a little bit of mental substance. It isn't until after we pass the first initiation of consciousness that our mental body then begins to release or increase its aura, the aura of the mental body. Later, intuitional and higher radiations come into the aura, making it a rainbow of colors. And again, you can see this is why I really liked this diagram. It gives us a portrayal of what is possible with a person with an advanced consciousness. So an average person has their physical body plus their etheric double and its centers and etheric counterparts. The etheric counterparts would be our physical glands and organs. They all work together. Not all of the etheric centers are active. This is truly important for esoteric students on the path of the teaching to recognize the truth behind it. There are some ignorant teachers out there that say, all of your centers are open. No, it is not possible for all of these centers to be open, or you would be such an advanced consciousness, you wouldn't need a teacher to tell you your centers are open. Typically, 3 centers are open. And I'm not going to go into that. Maybe someday we can talk about it. But just know that not all of the etheric centers, if we're just talking about the physical body and the etheric double right now, not all of these centers are active. The most active centers will be your sacral center, the solar plexus to some degree, and then we have the throat center. It too is active. It begins to show signs of activity in your aura. I'm going to put the other diagram up. At this point, the average person's astral body is a chaotic mist. A chaotic mist, M-I-S-T, in the aura. All of the astral centers are dormant except those which correspond to the active etheric centers, which basically the sacral, the solar plexus, and the throat centers. Still keeping our focus for now on the aura of the average person, the one whose soul is not yet awakened the light in their higher mental body is still very dim. Their mental body is an unorganized, diffused cloud around their head and shoulders. However, the sacral center in their mental body does appear active, whereas other centers do not yet exist. This is why the aura of an average person cannot register spatial impression, because there's no recording device, see, in the aura. So that chaotic mist in the aura of the astral body, what is it? The chaotic mist in which is a congestion in the astral body, is comprised of hatred and fear, jealousy, various glamours, and anger. Their astral aura is similar to a stagnant pool where the germs multiply. I must apologize, I don't have all the right diagrams to show you today, but Terry did find one that it's a little bit busy. but and you can understand now why I was saying, wow, when we have that software to create holograms, that's going to be really fantastic. So what we're seeing here is the physical and those four ethers levels that I was talking about with the physical body, and then we have the astral and then the mental, and this is the area that most of us in our consciousness are aware. I said that there was 2 levels to the mental aura, and we had the lower and then we have the higher. So the lower mind has its own radiation, and the higher mind has its own radiation. So then you have to let your creative imagination recognize that what we're seeing here, in one dimension, is in fact part of our whole aura. The more developed our consciousness is, the more developed the aura is. So let me repeat that the chaotic mist in the aura of the astral body is a congestion of hatred and fear, jealousy, our various glamours, and also anger. Our astral and mental auras originate from their corresponding permanent atoms. Is there a permanent atom on there? I can't see it from here. Probably not. Is there? Let me see. Okay, so here we have the physical permanent atom, the astral permanent atom, the mental unit, and then the mental permanent atom. Okay, these atoms are permanent because they're permanent. They're not tentative, they're not temporary. And what's really cool to know is these atoms, which are like recording devices, are really devas. I just think that's so beautiful to realize. And these devas are part of the Devic kingdom, which, when we come back into incarnation, begin to recreate these bodies for us, our physical, emotional, mental bodies for us. The downside is the recreation is made from our previous incarnations, what we left behind, both the good and the bad. This is why there's oftentimes a chaotic mess in our aura. So these permanent atoms ooze out. Isn't that a neat word? These permanent atoms ooze out a vapor-like substance which builds our astral and mental bodies. The aura of these two bodies begin to form when they interact with one another. And we can't see that on this diagram. It looks just like, from one level to the next, to the next, to the next. But there is an interaction that must take place to create the aura, which then interacts with the environment. The pure are consciousness. The more virtuous our consciousness, the more beautiful the etheric and the astral and the mental auras are. They can be so beautiful that you can see symbols in the aura. And then they can be so ugly that you can see ugly colors in the aura. Even our illnesses can be recognized and show up in our aura. I remember one year, Torquem, I was attending a conference by Torquem, and he had selected one of the students that had attended his conference, and he said, "You have a gray aura." Of course, everybody gasped. and she nearly fell apart. And what he was saying, he was telling us all, the reason she had a gray aura, because she was smoking. She was a chain smoker, and so that smoking was affecting her aura, and he was just giving her a warning. Interesting. You can sometimes see cancer in a person's aura, particularly depending on your psychic sensitivity. When that cancer is coming closer and closer into physical manifestation, you can see it in the person's aura. The human soul, if the human soul controls this interaction, let's say the interaction between the astral body and the mental body, the auras of the astral and mental body, if the human soul controls this interaction and makes it more conscious and goal-fitting, then the aura expands. But this expansion depends upon our virtues. These virtues nourish our body, and how the astral and mental bodies are used. The astral body and the astral aura need conscious striving to be built properly and to be used as a communication with the astral world. Now, this is what's important to convey here, and that is you can have an astral body, but if your astral body is filled with hatred and anger and jealousy and glamours and so forth, there's no way that your consciousness can move from your astral body onto the astral plane. Do you want to know why? Well, because it's like you have all of these obstacles. It's like trying to get through cement. It's like your consciousness is trying to get through cement to get onto the astral plane. So you can have an astral body, but that astral body has to have a doorway through which you can slip to get out onto the astral plane. And the same is with the mental plane. You can have a mental body, but if that mental body is not developed, there is no open door for your consciousness and for your consciousness to walk through and go out into the mental plane. Now, our aura has geometrical formations in it, lines of light and lines of fiery colors from many geometrical formations. So we can see that a little bit on this diagram. It gives us a perception. Anyway, what this diagram does not show is how the centers. Could we go back to that other diagram? That what happens with these centers, the base of the spine, the generative organs, the solar plexus, and the throat center, this is where the lines of light and the geometrical formations begin. And as we go into the astral body and mental body, there's an amazing interconnection between these centers of the etheric body and the centers of the astral body and the centers of the mental body. There's these, I don't know how to describe it, these lines of communication that interact with one another, which are in the same time forming and fusing the bodies with one another, eventually integrating the physical etheric, the astral body, and the mental body. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be talking about what does it mean to have an integrated personality. Hopefully, you'll be able to relate this talk to that talk and what integration really is all about. So we have in our etheric body, we have the chemical ether, the light ether, the life ether, and the reflective ether. These are the four ethers that I initially opened the talk with this morning, that the etheric body has 4 levels, and these are the 4 levels. And within these levels are centers, here and here. So I need to move on. We don't have much time so sorry about that. So our aura has geometrical formations in it, extending from one center to another, from one plane of consciousness to another. If these formations are harmonious and tend to appear in triangles, and we can go back to that more complicated diagram, tend to appear as triangles and sometimes circle, we see that the human soul is advanced. We say that the human soul is advanced and radioactive. So the geometrical formations start from the etheric centers. Then they extend forward into the astral or higher into the astral centers and the mental centers. And then they focus themselves in the chalice of our higher mental body. This is why we did a meditation this morning on the chalice. You can see streams of energy flowing back and forth from the chalice, and then from the chalice to the aura, from the aura to the chalice, from the chalice to the aura. Imagine all of this is going on and we don't. All we can see is, oh my, I'm having a bad hair day. So much is going on. The aura consists of 8 kinds of substance: our physical, etheric, astral substance, the mental, intuitional, atmic, monadic, and divine substance. So these are the substances which make up the aura. All 8 kinds of substance exist in our aura, in greater or lesser quantities. As we advance spiritually, these substances found in the various vehicles come into greater balance and harmony. Various substances are more evenly distributed in the aura, and the colors are more perfectly orchestrated within the aura. Now go back to the beginning when I talked about the puppies, having a pink aura. Well, they've got to be loving puppies to have a pink aura. They don't have a complicated aura like this, or like that initial diagram of Ledbetter. Our animals just don't. Sorry about that, but they just don't. The woman, that teacher that I was studying with, that she was able to focus her energy through her hands, but that wasn't her whole aura. That was just an energy that she had learned how to project through her hands that happened to be green because she was a natural healer. So that was very simplistic, but it was certainly easier to understand than this, These various substances, these 8 kinds of substance that exist in our aura, are more evenly distributed, and the colors are more perfectly orchestrated as we refine ourselves. The beautiful orchestration brings a person greater beauty and health and sanity and strength and creativity. So if you think about what I'm saying, greater beauty, health, sanity, strength, and creativity, you have some answers as to mental illness and so forth. These 8 spheres of substance are highly organized with their specific centers, which then creates a mechanism of contact with similar substances or radiations throughout the universe. For example, radiations. Radiations are known as ideas, impressions, directions, inspirations. These 8 spheres of substance within our aura slowly, gradually become sensitive to these radiations, and they record and register and assimilate them. This is why we meditate at the new and full moons. This is why we align ourselves to hierarchy and align ourselves to Shambhala, because within hierarchy, within Shambhala, during the time of particularly the full moons, we can align ourselves to the great beings of these constellations. And if our aura has enough developed recording devices, we receive impressions and ideas and direction. But remember, there must be a line of communication between your etheric brain and your physical brain. Or we just receive these ideas and they remain like in a holding tank in our permanent atoms until our soul is able to control and become awake and has created that line of communication between the etheric brain and the physical brain. To build your astral aura, let's say, you must first engage in a sincere aspiration toward higher values, then worship and admiration of great beauty, then intense devotion to spiritual principles, and dedication to service. These are methods which will purify your astral aura and make it beautiful. It is here that the sacral, can you go back to the other diagram? Where your sacral center, this is actually the sacral center. And let's say your sacral center, your solar plexus, and your throat center. The sacral center, the solar plexus, and the throat centers, plus your heart center and your head center, in the astral body develop and begin to function. So even though this is the physical etheric, it duplicates itself, let's say, in the astral body. So again, it would be your sacral center, the solar plexus, the throat, heart, and the head center. I believe these 5 centers, as they develop and emerge, they begin to function together, and your aura begins to expand. Unless these centers work in your astral body, you do not have an astral vehicle. The prototype is there, but it's not developed. So instead, what's replacing, are you with me? Are you bored? No, you're with me? Okay, good. What is there at this point are a lot of glamours and negative emotions around your aura, around your body, which then goes through the aura. With the mental body, most people do not yet have a mental aura because they do not have a developed mind. Every one of us must build our mental body and their mental aura, just like we build our physical body. And I'm going to try to stick with my notes here because I have about 3-4 more pages of information and a half a minute left. So let me race through this. When our mental body is in the process of formation, it radiates a yellow mist into our aura, especially around our head. When our astral body is in formation, it radiates a silvery blue mist into our aura. The etheric body projects a golden and violet color into the aura. So we have a combination of yellow and silvery blue and golden and violet in the aura. The mental body is built through concentration, meditation, visualization, and contemplation. As the mental body develops, yellow rays can be seen emanating from the mental body. And what it does is these yellow rays begin to melt into the aura. As your aura builds up and higher ethers, we can go back to the more complicated diagram. As our aura builds up and higher ethers form into the bodies, our contact with the universe now begins to expand. And eventually our aura becomes a mirror which reflects all that transpires in the 7 planes of the cosmic physical plane. I'm going to share something with you. So many esoteric students today are talking about the avatar of synthesis. And I know this seems a little, off to the side of today's talk, but I feel important to talk about this, that the avatar of synthesis cannot descend below the cosmic mental plane. The cosmic mental plane is not even here. What it does, what it is doing, what that great avatar is doing at the moment, it is reflecting, it's projecting itself to the higher mental plane of our cosmic physical plane. And this is why I wanted to bring it in. It's a mirror. And if we have the centers of communication developed, and the fusion of the etheric levels and the centers of the astral body and the centers of the mental body develop, we will be able to register the impressions and ideas and direction through the mirror of our higher mental body, the higher mental plane, which is the mirror of the avatar of synthesis that resides in the cosmic mental plane. And I know that's a whole bunch of words, but if you think about it and meditate, it will make sense to you. I'm going to repeat this. As our aura builds up and higher ethers form into our bodies, our contact with the universe expands, and that tells us we begin to build a communication, a line of contact between ourselves and the planetary logos, ourselves and the solar logos, ourselves and the lords of Shambhala. So the aura, it's the aura that allows the human soul to communicate with the forces of the environment, the forces of the etheric, astral, mental, and higher realms. The aura is also a vehicle by which you can travel on land, onto the astral plane, onto the mental plane, onto other planets the way Helena Rourke did. This is how it is done. The aura must be highly organized to be able to function on higher planes or higher spheres of consciousness. Wherever we are through, let's say, our etheric aura, we are in contact then with minor and major chakras, or minor and major centers. If our etheric aura is healthy, it balances the incoming and outflowing energies. I'm so out of time. Do we have enough space on the disc to put the rest of the talk on? Okay. Thank you. If our aura is not balanced, the incoming energies create confusion. The incoming energies, like full moon, it's just the full moon energies. If our aura is not balanced, the incoming energies create confusion, disturbance, and unhealthy conditions in our etheric body, which in time then reflects on our physical body and glands and organs. These exchanges of radiation through the etheric centers not only interchange through the chakras and centers, but also touch and have physical contact. It's like if I went over and touched Valerie today, there is an interaction with the aura, such as, just touching, shaking hands, a hug, a handshake, a kiss, or intercourse. The hands and lips and generative organs are surrounded with active etheric centers, and the etheric auras of the two usually fuse within each other, either for good or bad. The astral aura absorbs or registers the emotions of people. In extreme cases, it absorbs so much that the person has a hard time controlling themselves. The emotional aura may register astral radiations coming from entities living in the astral plane. This is why I didn't want to stop. I think this is so important to know. Those who pass away still have their emotions. And if a person is keyed in with their centers, in any way they receive those emotions. Most of these receptions are unconscious, but they still affect our life heavily, leading us from joy and happiness into depression and inertia and gloom. If someone is attached to people who have passed away, such as their father and mother and child and husband or wife, they especially absorb their emotions and feel various changing moods in their daily life, not understanding why. Many children who have died continuously send astral messages to their mothers, and their mothers continuously receive these messages and live in them. Such astral emotions are dense within that sphere of the world, especially during times of war, when thousands of people die in extremely emotional states. We can absorb the astral emanations of, let's call it, emotional clouds through our astral aura. These clouds can be good or bad. Some are charged with joy and happiness and aspiration, while others are charged with hatred, revenge, and fear. Emotional clouds are sometimes so thick you can almost touch them. Clouds of anger and fear and revenge send heavy emanations to people. They feel the overcasting gloom, which is going to precipitate in their lives. Animals can also feel the emanations of these clouds. The dark accumulations of emotional clouds result in various sicknesses, mostly affecting the liver and the spleen and the pancreas and other systems in the body. If your astral aura is highly sensitive, it can come in contact with the cosmic astral plane. Now, that contact can be very destructive to the person if they are not shielded by the power of their spirit. There's still more. Should I go on? The mental aura puts us in contact with the mental world. The mental aura puts us in contact with the mental world. Through this aura is when we become aware of thoughts of other people. You can read the thoughts of other people if your mental aura is highly organized. The mental aura is not easily visible, but there's like a magnetic field. Sometimes the mental aura is extremely sensitive and absorbs the thoughts of others like a sponge. The mental aura can also register the thoughts of departed ones from the mental plane. For example, great writers and artists and scientists especially can project their thoughts to the thought world of us, to the thought world of human beings. Their thoughts surround us, but we lack in the capacity to discriminate and choose and to even be aware of them. Remember, there has to be that line of communication between the etheric brain and the physical brain as a starter. Most advanced minds who pass away do not try to exercise any mental control over us. Rather, they try to inspire others with their wisdom. We come in contact through our mental sphere with accumulated thoughts in space. There are many kinds of accumulations ranging from light to the deepest darkness, crime, and terror. There are accumulations of wisdom as well as accumulations of terror, crime, and destruction. A person can tune in with such accumulations according to how their mental aura is built. Refined and evolved auras naturally repel all lower strata of thought formations and tune in with the higher thought forms of wisdom and beauty. When our mental aura is developed and healthy, that's when we can also contact spatial, S-P-A-T-I-A-L, spatial thoughts. These are thoughts released into space by great beings, the masters, initiates, great leaders, as well as thoughts of angelic beings who work between planets, between solar systems, and between galaxies. Spatial thoughts also include ashramic thoughts on various levels. So I'm going to end there. We could still go on and talk. I wanted to talk about the Buddhic body and intuition, but we'll save it till another time. There's a lot to assimilate today. So I suggest later when the YouTube gets posted, and you have some time this week, go back and watch this.